My name is Marcus Chin. I'm 52, a maritime engineer, and I inherited something most people only dream about. 12 acres of prime waterfront property in Washington state with 300 feet of deep water dock access. My Aunt May bought it in 1978 for $45,000. Paid cash. She ran a small boat repair business there for 40 years until she passed in 2020. Left it to me with a handwritten note. The water remembers everything. So should you. I lived in San Diego. Good job, messy divorce, 2 teenagers who needed college funds. I kept meaning to visit, but life happened. I paid the property taxes religiously though. $8,900 every year. Never missed a payment. September 2023. I finally drove up to see what I'd inherited. The gate was locked. My key didn't work. Beyond the fence, I could see a massive modern marina. Floating docks, a clubhouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, 47 boat slips occupied by yachts worth more than my house. A sign read, Cascade Bay Marina, members only. I stood there with my aunt's deed in my hand, looking at someone else's business on my land. The guard at the gatehouse was young, maybe 25, wearing a polo shirt with Cascade Bay Security embroidered on it. I'm the property owner, I said, holding up my phone with a photo of the deed. He didn't even look. Sir, this is private property. Members and guests only. I know it's private property. It's my private property. He picked up his phone. I'm calling Mr. Vance. 20 minutes later, a silver Tesla pulled up. Out stepped Richard Vance. Early 60s, perfect silver hair, wearing boat shoes that probably cost $400. He had that specific look of someone who'd been rich so long they'd forgotten what struggle felt like. You must be the nephew, he said, not offering his hand. May mentioned you once or twice. Said you never visited. The guilt hit exactly where he aimed it.
I'm Marcus Chen.
This is my property. What's going on here? Vance smiled. Patient. Condescending. Marcus, your aunt stopped maintaining this property around 2018. The docks were rotting, the buildings condemned. It was a safety hazard and an eyesore. The county was going to seize it. So you built a marina on it? We saved it. Under Washington maritime salvage law, when waterfront property is abandoned and poses a navigational hazard, private entities can rehabilitate and claim operational rights. We've invested $4.3 million. I'm an engineer. I know when someone's mixing real law with creative fiction. Show me the paperwork. Our attorney will be happy to explain. But Marcus, be realistic. You abandoned this property for years. We've created something beautiful. We have 47 members paying $85,000 annual fees. We're willing to offer you $200,000 to quitclaim any interest and walk away. $200,000 for 12 acres of deepwater waterfront worth at least $6 million. I'll see you in court, I said. His smile vanished. That would be unwise. Maritime litigation is extraordinarily expensive. We have the resources. Do you? I drove away with my hands shaking. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Aunt May working those docks for 40 years. Welding hull patches in the rain. Teaching neighborhood kids how to tie proper knots. She'd been tougher than anyone I knew. And I'd let her property sit untouched for 3 years. But guilt wasn't going to help me now. I needed a plan. I started calling attorneys the next morning. The first 3 wouldn't take my case. Too complicated. Out of our expertise. Maritime law is very specialized. The 4th lawyer, a guy named Brad something, took my retainer of $5,000 and then disappeared. Didn't return calls for 2 weeks. When I finally got him on the phone, he said he'd looked into it, and I should probably just settle. I fired him. Lost the $5,000. I was down to $13,000 in savings when my buddy Carlos, a civil engineer I'd worked with on a port project in Long Beach, gave me a name. Jennifer Park. She's a shark. Expensive, but she wins. Jennifer's office was in downtown Seattle, 20th floor with a view of Elliott Bay. Her consultation fee was $800. I paid it with a credit card that was already carrying a balance. She was 45, compact, with short black hair, and the direct gaze of someone who'd spent 20 years in Coast Guard JAG prosecuting smugglers and maritime fraud. "Tell me everything," she said. "And I mean everything. The stuff that makes you look bad too." I told her. Aunt May's death. The 3 years I didn't visit. The property taxes I'd paid. Vance's marina. His offer. She took notes in a leather portfolio, her handwriting precise and sharp. "Maritime salvage law doesn't work that way," she said when I finished. "You can't just claim operational rights to someone else's property. That's theft dressed up in nautical terminology. Can we stop them? We could get an injunction. Force them to cease operations immediately. Tear out the docks. Evacuate the boats." My chest loosened. "So we can win? We can. But here's what I'd do instead, and you're going to think I've lost my mind." She leaned forward. "Let them operate. Let them collect their $85,000 fees. Let them sign more members. Let them invest more money in improvements. Then we sue for unjust enrichment and trespass. Every dollar they make is evidence of how much they've profited from your property. Every improvement they build increases the value of what they've stolen."
Hier.
"You want them to keep stealing from me? I want them to steal enough that when we take it back, it hurts. And I want them to create so much evidence of intentional wrongdoing that they can't claim it was an honest mistake. What if they somehow win? What if there's some legal loophole I don't know about?" Jennifer shook her head. "They won't win. But even in some alternate universe where they did, you're no worse off than you are right now. The difference is whether you're fighting one arrogant developer with deep pockets, or fighting that same developer plus 47 angry yacht owners who'll sue everyone including you because they paid 6 figures for memberships that turned out to be worthless." It was cold, strategic, ruthless. It made perfect sense. "How much will this cost me?" 50,000. Maybe 60 if they fight hard. But when we win, and we will, the court awards attorney fees. Vance pays my bill. You pay nothing. I had $13,000 in savings. My daughter Emma's tuition payment was due in January. My son Jake needed braces. My Accord needed new tires. "I'll figure it out," I heard myself say. Jennifer slid a retainer agreement across her desk. "Sign here. And Marcus, don't contact Vance. Don't post about this on social media. Don't tell anyone except your immediate family. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold." I signed. My hand was shaking. Jennifer's strategy was methodical and ruthless. First, we needed to prove continuous ownership and use. I had Aunt May's 1978 deed, but we needed more. I flew back to Washington and spent a week living in a Motel 6 near Tacoma, eating gas station sandwiches and spending 10 hours a day in Pierce County archives. I found everything. Aunt May's business license renewals from 1978 to 2018. Her tax returns showing business income from Chun Marine Repair. Coast Guard inspection reports for her commercial dock. All passing. The last one dated November 2017. Utility bills in her name through March 2018, 6 months before she got sick. Insurance policies on the buildings and liability coverage for the dock. Most importantly, I found what Jennifer later called the smoking gun. In March 2019, just 4 months after Aunt May died, Richard Vance had filed a petition with Pierce County claiming the property was derelict, abandoned, and constituting a maritime hazard. The county had scheduled a hearing for April 15, 2019. But on April 8, Vance withdrew the petition. No explanation in the public record. Why would someone withdraw a legal claim they'd already filed? I called Jennifer from the archives reading room. "Because someone probably told him the property wasn't actually abandoned," she said immediately. "Someone probably told him there was an heir paying taxes. So he dropped the legal route and just built anyway, hoping you'd never notice or never be able to afford to fight." Can we prove that? We're about to. I'm filing a subpoena for all county communications with Vance and his attorneys. If there were emails or letters, we'll get them. 3 weeks later, the emails arrived. There were 17 of them, and reading them made my blood pressure spike so high I thought I'd need medication. March 22, 2019. Email from Pierce County Assessor Linda Martinez to Richard Vance. Mr. Vance, regarding your inquiry about the Chun property at Cascade Bay, our records show property taxes are current, paid annually by Marcus Chun of San Diego, California. The property does not meet the legal definition of abandoned. Please contact our office if you have questions. March 25, 2019. Vance's response. Thank you for clarifying. I must have been looking at outdated information. April 8, 2019. Vance withdraws his legal petition. June 2019. Construction begins. He knew. From day one, Richard Vance knew I owned that property. He knew I was paying taxes. He knew his legal claim would fail. And he built anyway. Jennifer read the emails and actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a genuine bark of joy. Marcus, this is beautiful. This is prosecutorial-level evidence of intent. He didn't make a mistake. He committed premeditated fraud. What do we do now? Now we keep digging. Because men like Vance don't commit fraud just once. This is a pattern. I guarantee it. She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Jennifer's paralegal, a tenacious woman named Kim who'd apparently sold her soul to the dark god of public records research, found 3 other projects. In 2011, Vance had built a commercial pier in Bellingham on property owned by an elderly widow named Dorothy Palmer. She'd sued. The case settled confidentially in 2013. Kim found the settlement buried in court records. $1.2 million paid to Mrs. Palmer. In 2015, Vance had developed a waterfront parking lot in Port Townsend on land owned by a disabled veteran named James Kowalski. That case also settled. Amount sealed, but the veteran's attorney had filed a motion mentioning 7 figures. In 2017, Vance had started building boat storage on property in Anacortes, but stopped abruptly mid-construction. Kim found a cease and desist letter from the property owner's attorney threatening criminal charges. He's done this at least 4 times that we can prove, Jennifer said. He finds waterfront property with absentee owners or elderly owners. He builds fast. He either forces a settlement or, if he gets caught early, he walks away. The Bellingham and Port Townsend cases tell us he's willing to pay millions to make problems disappear. Your property is worth more than both of those combined. I sat in her office, looking at the pattern Kim had mapped out on a whiteboard. Names, dates, locations, all connected with red string like a detective show. So what's our move? Jennifer capped her marker. We file in 30 days. December 15th. Right before the holidays when everyone's distracted and Vance thinks he's safe. We sue for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and we name not just Vance but his LLC, his business partners, and every contractor who pulled an illegal permit. Won't that make them fight harder? It'll make them realize how much they have to lose. And then, Marcus, we wait for them to make a mistake. Because they will. Guys like Vance always do. We filed on December 15th, just like Jennifer planned. Vance was served at his Bellevue office by a process server who said he turned the color of old mayonnaise. 3 days later, the counterattack began. First came the certified letter from Vance's attorneys. Pacific Maritime Law Group, 8 lawyers with names that sounded like a yacht club roster. The letter was 3 pages of dense legal threats. Claimed I was trespassing by driving past the marina. Claimed I was harassing their members by taking photos from the public road. Offered a final settlement of $150,000 to resolve this frivolous claim and avoid costly litigation. Less than the first offer. They were playing hardball now. Jennifer read it and smiled. They're rattled. Good. But I wasn't smiling. Because the next attack hit my family. December 21st. My daughter Emma called me at 11 p.m., crying so hard I could barely understand her. Dad, what's happening? There's stuff about you all over the internet. I opened Facebook, which I hadn't used since my divorce, and found the firestorm. Someone had posted in the Washington Boaters Community Group, 14,000 members, warning, Marcus Chun of San Diego is attempting to steal Cascade Bay Marina from legitimate owners through fraudulent legal claims. He abandoned his aunt's property for years, let it fall into ruin, and now wants to profit from the hard work of others. He's threatening 47 families who invested their life savings. Please share this warning. The post had 387 shares. The comments were worse. People calling me a con artist, a thief. Someone posted my home address in San Diego with the caption, "This is where the scammer lives." Another comment, "His daughter goes to University of Washington. Someone should let the school know her tuition is being paid with stolen money." Emma's name. They'd found Emma. I called Jennifer with my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "They're attacking my daughter." They posted her school. What if someone? Marcus, breathe. Screenshot everything. Every post, every comment, every share. It's evidence of malicious intent. And I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow for a restraining order. Will that stop them? It'll make it official that they're engaging in witness intimidation. And if they violate it, they go to jail. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room with my laptop, screenshotting 400+ comments calling me a criminal. At 3 a.m. I got an email. No subject line. The sender was a Gmail account. truth_speaker_2024@gmail.com. The body of the email had 6 words. Drop the lawsuit or lose everything. Attached was a photo of my son Jake leaving his high school. Someone had followed my 16-year-old kid. I forwarded it to Jennifer and called the San Diego Police Department. The officer who took my report, a young guy named Ramirez, was sympathetic but realistic. Anonymous email, generic threats. We can file a report, but unless they do something specific, there's not much we can do. I'd suggest your son vary his routes. Maybe get a ride to school for a while. Great advice. My teenager needed a security detail because I dared to assert my property rights. December 23rd. The IRS called. I was being audited. 3 years of tax returns. They'd received an anonymous tip about unreported income and possible tax fraud. I'd never had unreported income in my life. I was a W-2 employee at a maritime engineering firm. My taxes were so simple I filed them myself with TurboTax. Jennifer filed an emergency motion that afternoon. We got a hearing date, January 3rd, right after New Year's. Christmas was the worst holiday of my life. Emma refused to come home from Seattle. Said her roommate's parents had seen the Facebook posts and suggested she find somewhere else to live winter quarter. She ended up staying with her boyfriend's family, people I'd never met, because my own daughter was afraid to be associated with me. Jake barely spoke to me. He'd gotten into a fight at school when someone called me a crook. Got suspended for 3 days. My ex-wife Jennifer sent a text. "What the hell did you get our kids into?" I sat in my living room on Christmas Eve with leftover Chinese food and Aunt May's deed, wondering if $150,000 was enough to make this nightmare end. Then I remembered her note. The water remembers everything. So should you. I called the Washington State Department of Natural Resources on December 26th. I'm researching historic maritime activity at Cascade Bay. Do you have records of construction permits, pile driving, environmental impact assessments? The clerk, a woman named Stephanie who sounded bored and helpful in equal measure, said, "Everything from 2015 forward is digitized. Give me your email." 4 hours later, I had 73 pages of permits, applications, and environmental reports. Richard Vance had started the permitting process in March 2019. The same month he'd filed his petition claiming the property was abandoned. But here's what made my hands shake. Every single permit application listed the property owner as Cascade Bay Development LLC, with a claim date of 2019, pending county approval. He'd applied for construction permits claiming he owned the property before the county had approved anything. Because the county never approved anything. Because the county told him the property wasn't abandoned and he withdrew his petition. But he'd already submitted the construction permits. Already started lining up contractors. Already begun design work. This wasn't opportunistic. This was premeditated. I sent everything to Jennifer with a message. He planned this from the start. She called me back in 5 minutes. "Marcus, this is even better than the emails. He filed false ownership claims with state agencies. That's not just civil fraud. That's criminal fraud."
Wire fraud.
Possibly mail fraud if any communications went through USPS. What does that mean? It means we're not just suing him anymore. I'm referring this to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Richard Vance might be going to federal prison. January 3rd, Pierce County Superior Court. Judge Patricia Morrison's courtroom smelled like floor wax and old wood. She was 57, former maritime attorney herself, with silver hair and the no-nonsense expression of someone who'd spent 30 years dealing with nautical legal battles. Vance arrived with 4 attorneys. I counted them twice to make sure. 4 lawyers in expensive suits, carrying leather briefcases that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Jennifer showed up with 1 paralegal and a single file box. Trying to intimidate us with numbers? She whispered to me. Amateur move. Judge Morrison entered. We all stood. Case number 2023, CV 09847. Chun versus Vance. Let's keep this efficient, people. I have 6 more hearings today. Vance's lead attorney, a man named Gregory Ashford with perfect silver hair and a voice like NPR, stood first. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of property abandonment. Mr. Chun failed to maintain his late aunt's property for 3 years. The buildings were condemned. The docks were rotting and posed a navigational hazard. My client, Richard Vance, acting in good faith as a concerned community member, rehabilitated the property at great personal expense. $4.3 million invested. Judge Morrison looked at him over her reading glasses. Mr. Ashford, was there a court judgment declaring the property abandoned? No, Your Honor, but under Washington maritime salvage statutes. Maritime salvage applies to vessels and cargo, counselor, not real property. Try again. Ashford's confidence cracked slightly. The property was effectively derelict, Your Honor. The county assessor's office had multiple complaints. Did the county seize the property? No, but was there a tax foreclosure? No, Your Honor, however. Then on what legal basis did your client build a $4.3 million marina on someone else's land? The courtroom went silent. Jennifer stood. May I, Your Honor? Please, Miss Park. Someone needs to explain what's actually happening here. Jennifer walked to the center of the courtroom. She didn't need notes. Your Honor, in March 2019, Richard Vance filed a petition with Pierce County claiming the Chun property was abandoned. The county assessor's office informed him in writing that the property was not abandoned, that Marcus Chun was the legal owner and was current on all property taxes. She pulled out the email and handed copies to the judge and Ashford. Mr. Vance withdrew his petition 8 days later, but he didn't stop. Instead, he began construction anyway, filing false ownership claims with multiple state agencies. Judge Morrison read the email. Her expression could have frozen Puget Sound in July. Mr. Ashford, did your client share this email with you? Ashford glanced at Vance, who was staring at the table. We may not have seen that specific communication, Your Honor. It was in the public record you subpoenaed. Do you need glasses, counselor? A few people in the gallery laughed. The judge's gavel cracked once. Jennifer continued. We're also submitting construction permits where Mr. Vance listed Cascade Bay Development LLC as the property owner before any legal transfer had occurred. That's fraud on the Department of Natural Resources, fraud on the Army Corps of Engineers, and fraud on the Coast Guard. She pulled out another document. Additionally, we've discovered that Mr. Vance has committed similar acts at least 3 times in the past 10 years. In 2011, he built on property belonging to Dorothy Palmer in Bellingham. That case settled for $1.2 million. In 2015, he developed property owned by James Kowalski in Port Townsend. That case settled for an undisclosed 7-figure sum. In 2017, he attempted the same scheme in Anacortes but was stopped by a cease and desist letter. She placed a timeline on the overhead projector. Names, dates, settlements, all connected. This isn't a good faith mistake, Your Honor. It's a criminal enterprise. Mr. Vance identifies waterfront properties with absentee or elderly owners, builds without permission, and either forces a settlement or walks away if caught early. He's done this for over a decade. Judge Morrison looked at Vance. Mr. Vance, stand up. Vance stood slowly. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since I'd first met him. Did you know about this email from the county assessor? Your Honor, my legal team advised me. Yes or no, Mr. Vance? Yes. And you proceeded to build anyway? I believed the property was effectively abandoned. That I was improving a dangerous. You believed wrong. And you knew you believed wrong, because the county told you so in writing. Judge Morrison closed the file. Here's what's happening. I'm granting Mr. Chen's motion for a temporary restraining order. Cascade Bay Marina will cease all operations effective immediately. No boats enter or leave. No members use the facilities. Mr. Vance, you will not contact Mr. Chen or any member of his family. You will not post on social media. You will not file frivolous complaints with government agencies. She looked at Ashford. And Counselor, you and your team will remain after this hearing. We need to discuss your due diligence obligations and why you apparently didn't read the public records you subpoenaed. We walked out at 11:37 a.m. In the hallway, Jennifer turned to me with the closest thing to a smile I'd ever seen on her face. That remain after part means she's considering sanctions against his attorneys, possibly reporting them to the Bar Association for filing a case without proper investigation. What happens now? Now Vance realizes he's facing criminal charges, civil liability, and financial ruin. Now we wait for him to panic. Vance panicked faster than I expected. January 5th, 2 days after the hearing, his attorney Gregory Ashford called Jennifer. They wanted to settle. We met in a conference room at Pacific Maritime Law Group's downtown Seattle office. 23rd floor, views of Elliott Bay, art on the walls that probably cost more than my car. Vance looked destroyed. The perfect silver hair was greasy. He'd lost weight. The confidence was completely gone. Ashford sat beside him with another attorney I didn't recognize. Jennifer had brought Kim, her paralegal. What do you want? Vance asked.
No preamble. No pleasantries.
Jennifer slid a document across the polished table. Full title to the property confirmed in Marcus Chen's name. Mr. Vance pays all attorney fees. $67,000 to date. Mr. Vance pays $800,000 in damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Ashford laughed. Actually laughed. That's absurd. Is it? Jennifer pulled out a calculator. Mr. Vance collected $85,000 from 47 members. That's $3,995,000 in revenue from stolen property. Under Washington unjust enrichment law, Mr. Chen is entitled to every penny of that, plus fair market rent for 12 acres of deepwater waterfront. We had it appraised, $55,000 per month. You've occupied it for 4 years. That's $2.64 million in unpaid rent. She wrote numbers on a legal pad. Add punitive damages for intentional fraud, emotional distress, interference with Mr. Chen's property rights. We're looking at $10 million minimum. I'm offering you a settlement for $800,000. That's 92 cents on the dollar discount. Vance's face had gone pale. I don't have $800,000 liquid. Then sell something. The Tesla. The Bellevue condo. The boat I know you keep in Friday Harbor. Ashford leaned forward. Ms. Park, be reasonable. We'll agree to $300,000. We'll see you in trial. Jennifer stood. Wait. Vance's voice cracked. The members. What happens to them? This was the part I'd been thinking about since Christmas. The 47 people who'd paid $85,000 each believing they were joining a legitimate marina. They weren't criminals. They were teachers, retirees, small business owners who'd saved for years. I'd gotten emails from 3 of them. A woman named Patricia who'd sold her food truck to afford the membership. A retired Navy captain named Tom Perkins who'd served 30 years and dreamed of keeping his fishing boat somewhere safe. A young couple, the Nakamuras, who'd bought matching kayaks and joined the marina to teach their kids to love the water. They were victims too. Here's my offer, I said. Everyone turned to look at me. You pay $800,000 in damages. You refund every member their full $85,000. And you issue a public statement admitting you built on property you knew you didn't own. Vance stared at me. That's $4.8 million. That's what fraud costs. I'll be bankrupt. You should have thought of that before you stole my property. Ashford whispered urgently to Vance. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could read Vance's face. Fear. Desperation. The realization that this was the best offer he was going to get. If I do this, Vance said slowly, the criminal investigation stops? Jennifer shook her head. We can't control that. The U.S. Attorney's Office makes their own decisions. But we won't be actively pushing for prosecution if this is resolved. Vance looked at Ashford, who nodded slowly. I need a week to arrange financing. You have 72 hours, Jennifer said. After that, the settlement offer expires and we go to trial. And Mr. Vance? In trial, we're asking for everything. Every penny you made. Every asset you own. And we're calling every member as a witness to explain how you defrauded them. We left the conference room at 2:47 p.m. In the elevator, I finally let myself breathe. Is he going to agree? I asked. Jennifer nodded. He doesn't have a choice. If this goes to trial, he loses everything. At least this way he walks away with his freedom and maybe a chance to rebuild. Richard Vance signed the settlement agreement on January 12th at 4:53 p.m. I know the exact time because Jennifer called me the moment his signature hit the DocuSign. By January 20th, every member had received their full $85,000 refund. Some were grateful. Most were angry, but not at me. They trusted Vance and he'd betrayed them. Tom Perkins, the retired Navy captain, called me directly. Mr. Chun, I know this isn't your fault, but that marina meant everything to me. I served 30 years in the Navy. Dreamed my whole career about having a place to keep my boat safe when I retired. I sold my truck to afford that membership. His voice broke. Is there any way? Is the marina just going to sit empty now? I drove up to meet him the next day. Tom was 68. Weathered skin, bright blue eyes, with the straight posture of someone who'd spent decades in uniform. He showed me his boat, a 32-foot fishing vessel he'd named Homeport. Built her myself over 15 years, he said, running his hand along the hull. Every piece of wood, every fitting. She's my retirement plan. I was going to fish Alaska in the summers, teach kids about the ocean in winters. We walked the docks together. They were beautiful, I had to admit. Modern floating docks with power and water hookups. Well maintained. Safe. What if we rebuilt it right? I asked him. What do you mean? A real marina. Owned by the people who use it. Not some LLC shell game. A cooperative. Tom stopped walking. You serious? My aunt ran a boat repair business here for 40 years. She believed in community, in teaching, in giving people access to the water. This marina could be that. But done legally. Done right. Over the next month, I met with 31 of the original 47 members. Patricia, who'd sold her food truck, drove up from Portland. I just want to kayak with my daughter, she said. I don't care about fancy clubhouses. Just clean water and safe docks. The Nakamuras brought their 2 kids, 6 and 8 years old, who ran around the property like it was Disneyland. A marine biologist named Dr. Sarah Kim explained how she'd planned to use the marina as a base for teaching citizen science. We could monitor water quality, track salmon populations, teach kids about marine ecology. We formed the Cascade Bay Community Marina Corporation. Cooperative. Every member owns 1 share, worth exactly what they'd originally paid Vance. No one person controls it. Decisions are made democratically. I leased the land to the co-op for $1 annually for 99 years. In exchange, they maintain it, insure it, and run it as a nonprofit. Any surplus goes into a community fund for scholarships and environmental education. Tom Perkins became the harbor master. Patricia ran the kayak program. Dr. Kim established the Marine Education Center. We reopened on June 15, 2024. The grand opening had 200 people. Local families, kids, the mayor of Tacoma. Jennifer came with her wife. Even Emma and Jake drove up, the first time they'd visited the property. I stood at the end of the dock watching the sun set over Puget Sound and thought about Aunt May. She'd have loved this. The kids learning to tie bowlines. The families cooking salmon on the community grill. The sound of laughter carrying across the water. The $800,000 from Vance? I used $400,000 to repair Aunt May's original workshop and turn it into the May Chan Maritime Education Center. The building where she'd welded hull patches and rebuilt engines now teaches teenagers boat maintenance, marine biology, and maritime trades. The other $400,000 went into a trust, the May Chun Maritime Scholarship Fund. Every year, we give $20,000 to 2 Washington students studying marine engineering, environmental science, or maritime trades. Last month, we awarded the first scholarships. One went to a kid from Tacoma whose dad was a commercial fisherman. The other went to a girl from the Puyallup tribe who wants to study salmon habitat restoration. Aunt May would have been proud. People ask me if I regret not taking Vance's first offer of $200,000. Never. Not for 1 second. Because this was never about money. It was about principle. About not letting someone steal what your family built just because they had better lawyers and bigger bank accounts. Here's what I learned, and I hope it helps someone else facing something similar. Lesson 1. Keep every record. Every tax payment, every utility bill, every piece of paper. Aunt May's meticulous files saved me. If I hadn't been able to prove continuous tax payments, Vance might have won on a technicality. Lesson 2. The first settlement offer is always lowball. They're testing if you'll fold cheap. Vance offered me $200,000 for land worth $6 million. When I didn't fold, he offered $150,000. He was trying to see how desperate I was. Lesson 3. Find an attorney who specializes in your exact issue. *** General practice lawyers will take your money and flounder. I lost $5,000 to a lawyer who had no idea how maritime law worked. Jennifer knew it inside and out. That expertise was worth every penny. Lesson 4. Document everything your opponent does. Every threat, every Facebook post, every anonymous email, every dirty trick. It all becomes evidence. The photo of Jake leaving school, the IRS complaint, the social media attacks. All of it proved Vance's malicious intent. Lesson 5. Understand the long game. Jennifer's strategy of letting them keep operating seemed crazy at first. But every month they operated, every member they signed, every dollar they made, it all became evidence of how much they'd profited from stolen property. Lesson 6. Your opponent will try to isolate you. They'll attack your reputation, your family, your job. They want you to feel alone. Don't let them. I had Jennifer, I had my kids, eventually. I had Carlos and the people who believed in me. Lesson 7. Sometimes the best revenge is building something better. I could have taken the money and walked away. Instead, we built something Aunt May would have been proud of. A real community. That's worth more than any settlement. Lesson 8. Rich people aren't invincible. They want you to think they are. Vance showed up with 4 attorneys trying to intimidate us. But money can't buy the truth. Can't erase emails. Can't make fraud disappear. Lesson 9. Know when to settle and when to fight. Some battles aren't worth it. But some battles define who you are. This was one of those battles. Lesson 10. The law actually works sometimes. I know that sounds naive. I know the system is broken in a lot of ways. But Judge Morrison saw through Vance's lies. The evidence mattered. Justice happened. Richard Vance declared bankruptcy in March 2024. His house in Bellevue went to auction. The Tesla was repossessed. Cascade Bay Development LLC dissolved completely. But here's the thing, I don't feel good about that. I don't celebrate someone's financial destruction, even someone who tried to steal from me. What I feel is relief. Relief that it's over. Relief that justice happened. Relief that 47 families got their money back and 31 of them got something even better. A real community. The U.S. Attorney's Office decided not to pursue criminal charges. They said the civil settlement and Vance's bankruptcy were sufficient deterrent. I think they just didn't want to spend the resources on a white-collar case when they had bigger fish to fry. Jennifer sent me her final bill. $67,000. Exactly what Vance had paid in the settlement. I owed her nothing out of pocket. She also sent a handwritten note. Marcus, in 20 years of practice, I've never had a client fight this hard for what's right. Your aunt raised you well. JP. I framed that note. It's hanging in my workshop next to Aunt May's photo. Emma graduated from University of Washington in June. She invited me to the ceremony. We had lunch afterward, just the two of us, at a seafood place overlooking Lake Union. I'm proud of you, Dad, she said, for not giving up, for not taking the easy money, for doing the right thing even when it was hard. It almost destroyed us, I said, but it didn't. And now I know that if someone ever tries to push me around, I can fight back. You showed me that. Jake's different now too, more confident. He tells the story at school like I'm some kind of superhero. I'm not. I'm just a guy who refused to let someone steal what my aunt worked 40 years to build. The marina's thriving. We have 43 members now. Tom Perkins runs it like a Navy ship, organized, efficient, spotless. Patricia's kayak program has 60 kids enrolled. Dr. Kim's marine biology classes are so popular we had to add a waitlist. Last month, a developer from Oregon called me. Said he'd heard about the case, wanted to option the property for $8 million to build luxury condos. I didn't even let him finish his pitch. It's not for sale. It's never going to be for sale. It's community property now. He said I was leaving millions on the table. Maybe I am, but some things are worth more than money. The letters started arriving in February. First was from Dorothy Palmer, the Bellingham widow Vance had stolen from in 2011. Mr. Chun, she wrote in shaky handwriting, I saw your story on the news. I want you to know you're braver than I was. I settled because I was 74 and tired and scared. But watching you fight gave me peace. It showed me that sometimes the good guys win. Thank you. She included a $500 check for the scholarship fund. Then came a letter from James Kowalski, the Port Townsend veteran. I settled too. Vance paid me enough to keep quiet and I took it because I needed the money for medical bills. But I regretted it every day. You did what I couldn't. You stopped him. I hope your aunt is proud. I hope you are too. Another $500 check. Letters from people I'd never met. A woman in Anacortes whose family almost lost their waterfront property to a different developer. A fisherman in Alaska whose dock was taken by a corporation through eminent domain. A farmer in Idaho fighting a pipeline company. All of them saying the same thing. You showed us it's possible to win. I answered every letter. Told them about Jennifer, about the importance of documentation, about not giving up. Some of them are fighting their own battles now. I get updates. A successful lawsuit against a developer in Spokane. A family in Oregon who stopped a land grab by proving continuous use. A fishing cooperative in Alaska that beat a corporation trying to claim their traditional waters. We're building a network. People who refuse to let the powerful steal from the powerless. Last week, I got a call from a producer at a documentary company in Seattle. They want to make a film about the case. David versus Goliath, they called it. The little guy beating the system. I said no at first. This isn't about publicity. It's not about making me look heroic. But the producer, a woman named Alicia, said something that changed my mind. Marcus, there are thousands of people losing their property right now. To developers, to corporations, to schemes just like Vance's. They think they can't fight because they can't afford it. Your story shows them it's possible. That's worth telling. So we're doing it. The documentary films this summer. Jennifer agreed to participate. Tom Perkins and several Marina members did too. Even Judge Morrison gave an interview about maritime fraud and property rights. The working title is The Water Remembers. Aunt May would have liked that. I'm also working with a legal nonprofit to create a property rights defense fund. Low-cost legal help for people facing the kind of theft I faced. We're funding it with donations and a percentage of the marina's annual surplus. Jennifer's helping set it up. She's donating 10 hours a month pro bono to consult on cases. We've already helped 3 families. A couple in Bellingham facing a boundary dispute. A small business owner whose landlord tried to claim adverse possession of a parking lot. A community garden in Seattle threatened by a development company. Small victories, but they add up. September 15th, 2024. Exactly 1 year after I drove up and found Vance's marina on my land. We held a community celebration at Cascade Bay. Grilled salmon, corn on the cob, kids running around with sparklers even though it wasn't quite dark yet. Tom Perkins gave a speech thanking everyone who'd fought to save the marina. Patricia presented scholarships to 2 new students. Dr. Kim's marine biology class released juvenile salmon they'd been raising in the education center. Emma and Jake were there. Emma brought her boyfriend, a law student named David who asked me about 1,000 questions about property law. Jake brought 3 friends who wanted to learn to sail. Jennifer came with her wife and their daughter. We sat on the dock watching the sun set over Puget Sound. You ever regret it? Jennifer asked. All the stress, the threats, the attacks on your family? I thought about it. Really thought about it.
No.
Because this matters. I gestured at the marina, the families, the kids learning to tie knots under Tom's patient instruction. Aunt May built something good here. Vance tried to steal it and turn it into something exclusive, something only rich people could access. We took it back and made it better. You made it what it always should have been, Jennifer said. As the sun touched the horizon, turning the water gold and orange, I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Sent it to Emma and Jake with a message. This is your inheritance. Not land or money. The knowledge that you can fight and win. Emma texted back immediately. I love you, Dad. Grandma May would be proud. She was right. Aunt May would be proud. Not because I'd won, but because I'd built something that would outlast me. So here's my question for you, because I know some of you are facing similar battles right now. Have you dealt with property theft? A neighbor claiming your land? A corporation or developer trying to steamroll you? An Hoa oversten? Someone who thought they could take what's yours because they had money and lawyers and you didn't? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a library of how regular people beat corrupt systems. Because every story matters. Every victory inspires someone else to fight. If you're in a battle right now, here's my advice. Document everything. Photos, dates, times, conversations, emails. Everything. Find the right lawyer. Not the cheapest. Not the closest. The one who specializes in your exact issue. Don't let them isolate you. Talk to family, friends, support groups. You're not alone. Play the long game. Quick solutions usually favor the powerful. Patience and strategy win. Remember why you're fighting. It's not about money. It's about principle. About not letting them win. And if this story helped you, if it reminded you that regular people can still win against corrupt systems, hit that subscribe button. Because I've got more stories like this. Next week, the developer who claimed my beach access, then built a private resort. The fight continues. The victories add up. And the water remembers everything. My name is Marcus Chin. I inherited 12 acres of waterfront property and a lesson I'll never forget. Sometimes the most valuable thing you own isn't property. It's the refusal to let someone take it from you. Keep fighting. Keep documenting. Keep believing that justice is possible. Because it is.